button first. And fade us in. Here we go. All right, there we are.
Hey everybody.
How's it going?
Happy Friday
Happy
the 13th.
Friday the 13th, oh my gosh.
Yep, streaming on Friday the 13th.
And we drove here?
We drove here.
Well, it's probably
minutes.
better because we'd have to walk through the park at night in the dark.
Yeah, I think
so,
driving here is a good plan.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Yeah, whatever.
It's like a 5-minute drive and a 20-minute walk.
Oh, are we going to watch that tonight when we get home?
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah, I think so. Introduce our daughter to it. So, I'm Jenny. He's somebody.
I'm Paul. I got something little roop in my throat there for a second.
We're with the Go Box Art Crate and Vango Artist Bar and Studio. Go Box Art Crate is a subscription box, acrylic painting subscription box, where you get 2 unique projects every single month with the supplies to complete those projects, and you follow along with the tutorials here. And you get a few other things too. Vango Artist Bar and Studio is our home base where we teach live classes. Currently closed at the moment while we remodel our new studio space.
But you're seeing kind of part of it. This is like a corner of our new studio space. And so once we're open, if you want to come visit, you can peek around the corner and see where this really happens.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So let's show our project today. You want me to zoom in?
Yeah, let's zoom in.
Okay.
We'll talk about it that way. So today we are painting 3 mountains. And so this was kind of inspired. I mean, we live in Oregon, so we are lucky enough to see the Cascade Mountains all the time, every day, basically. Yep. And these are Cascade-style mountains, and it's kind of inspired by when you go up to Timberline Lodge, just about, an hour from Portland, thereabouts?
Yeah, a little over now.
Somewhere in there. Depends on what part of Portland you're driving from. And you look south, you're looking along the ridge of the Cascade Mountains, and you see kind of several mountains kind of all in a line. Not quite this distinctively, but that was kind of my inspiration. So, and then the other thing is Jenny, you picked a very limited palette for us to work from this month, and so I always enjoy doing limited palettes. I think it's always fun to show people how much more you can actually get done with just a couple of colors. So with that said, let's talk about our colors. And really, all we're working with today is, I'm going to use the back of my brush here, is white, black, and we're not going to use very much black, just a little tiny bit kind of towards the end. And we're using our dark phthalo blue, and what color did we call this? Did we call this?
It's just violet.
Just violet.
Yeah.
So
craft violet. Maybe.
Wasn't sure if it was purple, violet, whatever. But so those are our 4 colors, and I think you guys will really enjoy this one. This really feels like it might have been on the PBS networks with a guy with big hair, in a way. It's kind of got that kind of vibe. It does have
a Bob Ross feel.
Yeah, and sometimes that's nice. I enjoy that, and we hadn't done like a really good the focus being the mountain in a while. Mm-hmm. So with that said, let's start off with a little air toast. Let's toast to painting on a Friday. And hopefully this hot, sweltery weather we've got being done soon.
Cheers.
Cheers. We've been over 100 degrees 3 days in a row again. It's like, what's going on up here in Oregon?
We're frying.
Thanks, California, for sending your weather our way. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start basically in this painting. If you have your instructions that come along with the subscription, I've got here an example. If you do subscribe to the subscription box, each box comes with instructions, and you can see we're going to start by painting our sky in. And we're going to do that. We're going to do a lot of this painting with our biggest paintbrush, and if you're painting along with home and you don't have the brushes that we have available through our website, and if you're a subscriber, you get it in your first month now.
Yeah, you get this kit.
Yep, get that 4 kit. But we're going to use a brush that's about anywhere between 3/4 to 1 inch wide. It's called a wash brush. And we are going to get started. Always dampen your brush up a little bit and wipe it dry. There we go. And what we're going to do really simply on this is we're going to do a lot of mixing on our canvas, which is how we're going to get this blend. So I'm going to start with a little bit of our blue. I'm just going to start up in this top right-hand corner. And I don't love this color straight on the canvas.
This is the same color as my car.
It is. And one of the things I try to do when we're doing this is make sure my brush is moving in all kinds of different directions. Not just one angle. I'm just going to do that little corner like that. I'm not going to rinse my brush at all. I'm just going to get a little bit of white now and just work around the edge. I might have to switch there. There we go. And back. And I like to bring a little bit of this white up to the corner, and it just adds a little bit more opacity to our blue paint. It kind of gets, I always feel like this paint when it goes on raw, it just kind of has a gelatinous kind of feel, like a jelly. And this kind of takes that away. And essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to keep working our way away from this corner, adding little more white, and just keep going. Basically, we want to work all the way across towards the left and down to maybe about 3 inches from the bottom. And what we'll work into is we want to have enough paint on the canvas that we're not seeing the white of the canvas anymore, but not so heavy that it's this big old chunky mess either. Texture is great for a lot of things, but for skies and with this thickness of paint that we use, it's kind of hard to work with. What you'll find out is as we get going across, you probably are going to run out of that blue pretty quick. See, I'm starting to get to the point where it's just becoming white. And what I will do is I'll just get a little dot of blue on the corner of my brush and just refresh it. Mostly what I'm doing is I'm getting it on the brush so it can continue. Just the tiniest little dot.
Oops.
Way to go, Jenny. That's an easy fix. You just add more white and you keep pushing it. Pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. And basically what we want is we want to get to the point where when we get down to this point about 3 inches down and all the way to the left, there should still be a little whisper of blue left. It shouldn't just be pure white, but pretty darn close in some areas. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us. Jenny's kind of keeping an eye on the monitor.
And you can say hi, introduce yourself, or tell us where you're watching from. That's always fun to see.
Oh, I always enjoy that, yeah. We had a really chatty person last week. I really enjoyed that.
That was nice.
We don't get a lot of commentary because I know people are painting, so they're not as likely to take the time to type to us, but it is nice. So again, I'm working and making sure my brush is moving all kinds of different directions. And basically what we're kind of creating here is, I don't want to call it a cloudy sky. Here we go. We got somebody said hi.
That already looks better than your doodles.
Well, there you go.
Well, doodles it's a whole different medium.
Exactly.
I was actually doing some doodles on some newsprint while I was waiting for time to pass for the live stream to start. It's challenging, for sure.
All right. Anyway, what I was starting to say is I want this to feel like that kind of wispy morning, foggy kind of burns off kind of cloudy day. But not...
How far down are we going?
Within about 3 inches of the bottom.
Oh, long ways.
You got a ways to go yet.
Hey, I'm not that far behind you.
Nope. I'm talking about as far down. I wasn't talking about where you were. Jeez.
It's Daniel.
What?
He said, I always did wonder how you made the painting for me of the one I took of Mount Hood.
Oh. Well, now I understand the doodles comment.
Sneaky.
I get the doodles. Daniel was doing, was starting to do some...
Yeah, Daniel, where's your doodles?
Well, he was starting to film them.
But I haven't seen any Instagram posts of doodles in a while.
No, I haven't either. What's going on? All right. I feel like...
Yes, Linda, it was you. Last week.
Yeah.
Chatty Linda, we loved it.
I loved it. We have sometimes where we get absolutely zero, and it's kind of like I'm just talking at a camera all the whole night. All right. So once I get all the way across, again, I'm working in every direction. I want this to feel blotchy and uneven because that's how we get it to feel like maybe there's some clouds that are wisping around up in the upper part of our atmosphere, or maybe this would be the lower part of our atmosphere. I don't know. I'm not a climatologist or a cloud specialist or anything like that. All I know is it's hot.
It is hot. Yeah, Daniel, I was telling Paul that he should do one of your paintings of Priest Lake, or paint one of your photos of Priest Lake.
Yeah.
Because they're so neat.
We'll do it.
One with a storm, that would be really cool.
That would be really cool. So once I've come across the sky, what I want to do now is I actually want to come back up to this corner where we first started. So I'm going to give my brush a quick little rinse. And the reason I want to come back up here is now that we've kind of got a little primer for ourselves by having that little bit of opacity built up with the white added to the blue will now set on top of this other paint a little bit more friendly. So just the tiniest little dab of blue, and I'm just going to work this out in a way until it runs out of paint. If it starts going too far, you can always add a little bit more white just to kind of soften the blow. But you don't have to.
Daniel says he could look for a photo, or we could go up there and scout the area.
I think we should do that.
It looks really cool.
So the other thing I'm going to do with this corner is I want to, I don't want to. What I'm going to do is, if you notice, Jenny, the original, I'll pull the original back up. There is just the faintest little hint of some of our violet up in this part of the sky.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take same brush, give it another little quick rinse. We're still pretty, even though our AC is working good, it's still not the best temperatures for acrylic paints. They dry pretty quick. So I'm just going to get a little tiny bit of our violet. And when I say a little tiny bit, I'm going to hold my brush up here. You can see there's just a little bit on the corner there. And I'm just going to brush a little bit on top of our blue. And you have to be a little bit careful while you do this because it can...
Did you say you washed the brush first?
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't.
You can have a tendency of overworking an area too soon and it's starting to lift the paint. So if you see that happen, it's pretty obvious. It's like all of a sudden the white shows up again. And people's instinct is usually to keep throwing more paint at it. Best thing to do is just leave it alone. Just stop, walk away, come back later.
Sometimes you just have to walk away.
Okay. Okay, Jen Harper. So part of the reason we come down much further than we think we're going to need to is I always like to tell people, and this is something, I know there's some artists that it's their technique that they do it that way on purpose, but I think for people who are just learning how to paint, it's important to think of the fact that the sky keeps going below the mountains, and so, or behind the mountains. So it's, you can paint all the way down to the bottom if you want. It's better to do that and have way too much sky painted and then paint over it than it is to not paint enough of the sky and have to try to fix it. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to fix it and have it look right when you're doing like this technique that we're using here. So part of the reason...
Just walk away, Renee. I'm dating myself here. So, okay, so what is walk away, Renee? I'm older than you, so I should know this.
Oh no, but Daniel Daniel's like listens to music that's
random
old.
Music.
No, like stuff from the 60s and 70s more.
Oh. I'm sure I've heard it. It's just not going to my brain.
Or it could be from a movie, or who knows. All right, let's stay focused here. All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to work our background, our sky is done. We're really not going to do anything more with the sky. We just kind of leave that the way it is. And what we're going to do next is we're going to start working our way forward. Yeah, see, from the 60s. I told you.
Uh-huh.
By doing our furthest mountain back. And what we need to do for that is we need to mix up a little color. And the color we're going to mix is we're going to use a little bit of our violet.
Wednesday D, I'm a new subscriber and so happy I found you guys.
Awesome.
Yay.
Welcome aboard. So we're going to mix together, I'm going to say it's probably about 1 part blue with about 2 parts violet and a little bit of white, making a really pale lavender. And the blue and the violet together, really they kind of create a nice, almost dusty kind of periwinkle kind of color. If you guys remember your Crayola set from when we were kids.
Is that where the periwinkle name came from? I think we talked about this one time.
Well, there's a kind of a crustacean called a periwinkle.
But they're not that color.
Yeah,
they're
I
like
don't know.
black.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. We'll have to look it up.
It's like a snail, isn't it? Like a
Yeah,
little
kind of like a little snail.
ice cream cone shaped.
A little ice cream,
snail.
like a sugar cone shaped ice
So
snail.
wait, did you just mix blue, white, and purple?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just going for this kind of little light color. And as far as our mountain is concerned, we're going to start, I'm going to come up maybe about 2 inches from where we... You okay?
There's a fruit fly like trying to fly in my eye.
Oh. Okay.
I think it might have made it. No, there it is.
No, I saw it flying around.
Okay.
So what we want to do is we want to paint a fairly squished seeming little triangle. So I'm just going to use the edge of my brush. I don't want it to be too... People have a tendency of doing mountains really jagged and spiky. And I guess, you know, if you're in Colorado and you've got tectonic type of mountains, then that's kind of what you're used to seeing. But this kind of mountain, it's really kind of a much softer slope than a lot of people think it is. I mean, we're not doing real big here. Just about... I don't know, what'd you say? That's probably about 120 degree angle?
I guess so.
Something like that.
I don't know. I paid more attention to art than math in school.
Yeah. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the color that I've already put on the canvas.
Which mountain is this, Paul? What's its name?
It doesn't have one. Mount Gensuvius? I don't know. And I'm just going to kind of fade this out. And the point of doing this little fade out at the bottom.
Hold on, how do I scroll down here?
Oh, wow, there's like a whole full-on conversation going. I'm going to have to put you guys on the payroll.
Wednesday hasn't held a paintbrush in about 15 years. That's
Wow.
awesome. It's amazing how quick you'll pick up on it.
Well, you know, when we started VineGo, it had probably been close to 15 years since I had touched a paintbrush, too. Pretty close. So we're not going to worry about highlights or anything like this, but what we're doing is we're fading this out a little bit so that as we come forward with more layers, we've painted further than we needed to paint, just like this whole concept of the sky, so that we don't have to try to fix missing gaps. So next step we're going to do is we're going to do another mountain just a little bit closer. So I'm going to take this same little spot where I was mixing paint, I'm going to add a little bit more purple, a little bit more blue, again more purple than blue, and a touch of white. I still want this to be this soft kind of periwinkle color, but it should be just a smidge darker than the painting or the mountain that we just painted. I'm going to move off to the left a couple inches from this peak and up just a little, maybe a 1/4 inch. Same basic shape. You can give it a little bit more. Give it a little bit more jaggediness. I think it's really easy to kind of do the same shape over and over and over again. And so it's really important, I think, to try to make sure you're not doing the exact same shape. So I'm going to do my best here. Maybe make one a little bit blunter on top, one a little bit pointier. And when I get towards the left side of the canvas, I really want this to feel like it's going to be pretty close to flat and horizontal.
You added a little more blue to your
A little bit more blue, a little bit more purple.
Okay.
Just want to make it a little darker. Same basic tone. And I'm going to go ahead and just going to pull this down to the right. like it's going to just keep going.
Sock Monkey. Hi, that looks really nice so far.
Well, thank you.
Well, you can't see mine. It's, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see it at the end.
We'll see. We'll see what whimsical things I can add to it, since that seems to be my MO.
And one of the things that when I'm painting like mountains and stuff, or anything in nature, is I don't try real hard to get everything like perfectly blended and smooth.
We noticed.
Yeah.
I actually like that.
That's what makes it feel...
Because I tend to be more of that type, and it's a habit I try to break.
Yeah.
My mountain looks like the Matterhorn.
Oh, perfect.
That's in, like, Germany, isn't it?
I think it's in Switzerland.
Switzerland, okay.
Actually, I think
it's Disneyland.
I'm pretty sure it's in Anaheim.
Remember when we went, it was closed.
It was, so I guess we need to go back.
We do.
Don't forget to hydrate. It's an important part. Okay, so next we're going to do our big mountain.
Oh, hey, so Wednesday says, well, how have I not heard of your paint subscription box? It's beyond me, but happy I'm subscribing. We'll get my husband involved too. Maybe you guys could do paintings of the Smokies.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, we need to do that.
We get very northwest centered because this is where we're from, but I've actually been excited about being able to... we started doing a national park series. We did Yosemite a few months ago, and I kind of want to work my way through the national parks, and Smoky Mountain National Park is on my list.
Well, in the Appalachian Trail, there's a lot of cool landmarks along there.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, Arches National. I mean, there's so many national parks. And one of the great things, I follow the national parks on Twitter, and they share a lot of national parks from other countries and stuff, too. And sometimes it's kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, we are relatively unknown. We don't do a ton of marketing, but we do have a marketing firm that's just starting to work with us. So we're kind of like the undiscovered secret right now. I'm glad you found us.
We'll be like that band that you used to see at the bar, and then they went big.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can say, yeah, I remember when I saw them, and they were just... Yeah.
We've had a few bands like that.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix up now... Again, a little bit of blue, more purple. I'm going to add just a tiny touch of black, tiniest little dot of black. And I'm still going to add a little bit of white, but I want to add the black to that, more purple. There we go. I want to add the black to it because I want it to have like a really kind of rocky gray.
Did you wash your brush first? Or
Nah.
Okay.
If I did, it was just to freshen it up.
Okay.
Okay. So this one, we're going to go taller than the other two, pretty considerably. We're going to kind of go about halfway between this peak here and the edge of our canvas. And I'm just going to start right at this top here. And just going to come across. I'm going to make sure I can still see both of my other peaks.
Oh, Sock Monkey's a new subscriber too.
Awesome.
Awesome, that's great. Yeah, I love
Mine's
that.
looking a little Matterhornish, this new one.
This time of year is slow for us because everybody's outside enjoying the weather, and not here in Oregon right now. It's way too hot, but
Yeah.
But hot and humid here today and this last week. But yeah, definitely fall and winters. That's our big.
You must be answering a question that I didn't see.
No, just talking about how a lot of people haven't found us.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. So this one I'm going to blend out a little bit more. I'm not too concerned about it blending because as long as I kind of move my brush in the direction that the mountain slopes would be, it's just going to feel like natural highlights and shadows without having to do a bunch of extra work. I might go a little bit further to the right here.
There's a mountain range here in Oregon they're called the Three Sisters, which I've always thought was so cool. Growing up, I had an aunt and uncle that lived there, and we would spend every summer, we'd do like a summer gathering there where they had 25 acres, and it was all surrounded by Bureau of Land Management land, so undeveloped. And
But technically, the Three Sisters are part of the Cascade range.
yeah, so yeah, I loved the idea that they were called the Three Sisters because my mom is from a family of 10 kids, and the 3 youngest sisters, we just always called them the Three Sisters.
Well, see, and for me growing up, the other mountain that's right next to the Three Sisters is Mount Bachelor.
Oh, yeah.
And so in my family, I had 3 sisters and one,
and
no brothers.
You're Mount Bachelor.
So it was the 3 sisters and the Bachelor. So anyway, that's changed. So what I'm going to do is when I get down to maybe about the, kind of about the bottom 3 inches of the canvas, I'm going to go ahead and start blending in a little bit of white.
Yeah, I do like that you have kind of this foggy thing going on behind these trees.
Well, and all it's there for is I don't really want it to be fog, but I want it to be lighter than the trees so that they have a chance to show up. And the kind of the important part of this is not using a lot of the white, just enough to soften this up. You want to pull some of that other color along from the ride, for the ride, I should say. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of softly pull some of this color up into my mountain. Keyword here I keep saying over and over and over again, soft. Soft, soft, soft. You can mix up a little bit more of this color if you need it. If you get a little carried away.
Oh, what you doing there? Putting a dark patch on.
Yeah, mine was a little bit too light, so I'm just...
So we don't have to do that?
You don't have to do that, no. If yours is already pretty dark, you don't need to. We can always come back later and add more darkness anyway, add some shadows.
Some cragginess.
Some craggy. St. Craggy Day.
You should do Mount Everest someday.
Oof. Do we have to put all the dead bodies on it?
Oh, that's morbid. I guess Friday the 13th.
It's Friday the 13th.
You can get away with
humor.
it today, but...
The Green Boot Man?
Yeah. That's...
We can go low budget and do K9 like
too
that
bad.
movie.
There's a lot of people that attempted to climb it, and just the
those people
conditions didn't work out right.
They had a bucket list and lofty aspirations to accomplish it.
And
Lofty.
they did the attempt.
All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take our little blue-gray mix and lavender. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in at the bottom.
Oh, and Linda asked, what paint do we use? Are you talking? I assume you're talking to us, but maybe you're talking to Wednesday. We're using acrylic paint here, and it dries fast, and it has its limitations, but it also has its advantages.
Now, if you order the subscription box, we send you the paint every month. So then you are all covered. No trips to the store.
Yes, Daniel, that became their kick the bucket list.
Well played, sir.
Well played. I guess if you're going to choose a hill to die on, it might be the one that you had set to climb. Sad enough as that sounds.
So basically what we're doing at this point, just for a little bit of understanding of what's going on, is we could leave this bottom part alone and not do anything with it. But for me, what we're doing is we're basically doing underpainting, which is kind of like a primer. It gives, when we start doing more detail and more elements to this, it gives the painting, gives the other paints something better to stick to than what they call the gesso, which is the primer that the paint comes with, or the canvas comes with, I should say.
Yeah, that white on the canvas is primer.
Yeah. And I just don't think that the paint sticks to it quite as well, but it's better than painting on raw canvas.
If you look at the back of the canvas, it's kind of muslin colored, and that's what it would be without that gesso coating.
Yeah, it's raw linen basically.
What I like about gesso is you can apply enough coats that your canvas has no texture. So if you're going for a certain look.
Well, old OPB Jerry Yarnell. Remember Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
He would layer he would usually do a tinted gesso and build it up pretty thick, and then he'd use a little sanding block, like a real fine, like a 200 grit.
I'm gonna try that.
Sanding block, and sand it so it was super smooth. But you have to have enough paint on there that you don't bust through to the tooth of the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of adding a little bit of white here and there too, just so it doesn't get too intensely dark.
Oh yeah, Denali would be a need to paint. I don't know if we've done anything in Alaska.
We haven't. Well, we've been so focused on just Pacific Northwest because...
Well, we need to just get away from that.
It's not because we didn't want to, but just in general in the studio, when we would try to do landmarks from other states, nobody would sign up for them.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, from Portland...
Die-hard Oregonians.
Yeah, from Portland, just as visible from downtown Portland as Mount Hood is Mount St. Helens.
And Rainier.
Well, Rainier, you got to be in the right spot, but Mount St. Helens is right there, just like Mount Hood is. And about the same distance away. And obviously Mount St. Helens, everybody's heard of Mount St. Helens. It's the one that blew up, and I remember seeing that when I was a kid.
Was that 1980? 81?
81, I think. Anyway, you just set us up to be wrong, but I think it was 81. Daniel will know.
Yeah, Daniel, tell us. Was it 80 or 81?
But the amazing thing is when we've done Mount St. Helens paintings, nobody ever signs up for them.
No, you're right. We've tried. We've been like, come on, guys. This is like, we're Northwest. We're really famous for Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just I don't know.
It just doesn't, I don't know. People just are not.
But they drive up there and...
No, but we could do, 1980, yeah.
1980.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, it's about the same distance drive as Mount Hood is. Maybe a little farther, but not much. And just as visible from Portland. And yeah. Anyway, so we're going to switch brushes. So anytime we switch brushes, I always like to take the brush I've been using. I like to rinse it really well, and then I just leave it sit in my cup. It keeps it from drying out. Anytime I start with a fresh brush, I'm going to give it a quick little rinse. And I'm going to switch to, this is our number 8, is that right? Number 4. You could do, yeah, number 4 is good. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do some highlights on our mountains. And the highlights, I think, the main thing that people do with highlights is they tend to blend them out too much instead of just kind of laying them on there. So I'm going to take a little bit of white. And basically this back mountain, I did something different this time. Did you notice this? I did the highlight on the left-hand side. We always do the highlight on the right-hand side. Almost always. And the reason is it's easier for us to do it this way as right-handed.
I thought you always do the highlight on the left side.
No, you just don't pay attention, I guess.
I think I do the highlight on the left side.
No, I always do it on the right because I always think of from Portland looking at Mount Hood, the highlight's always on the right because that's the south side of the mountain.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just going to create a little ridge line here.
So this is where he's bringing Bob Ross in. This is exactly what Bob Ross does.
Yeah, and just going to kind of give it a quick little smudge.
Yeah, and you can do a curvy line so it's not like a perfectly straight down.
Yep, and just a quick little smudge just to get a little bit of color on that right-hand side. It doesn't have to be anything real specific, especially this one that's in the back. We don't want to overwork the detail on it.
It should be sort of fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way it looks if you're nearsighted and you take your glasses off.
Not too fuzzy, though, because then you end up getting it blurred out and then you don't see anything. So, okay, I'm going to switch... Next brush up next brush up in size, or number 8.
Oh, Daniel, I think the Cliffs of Insanity would be better.
What's that? I don't know what you guys...
The Cliffs of Dover.
Oh, yeah. The Cliffs of Dover are awesome. That's what that one lady painted in that class that we taught recently.
But what about the Cliffs of Insanity?
Well, the White Cliffs of... Yes, I know. Princess Bride reference. I got it. Switch up to our next size brush, which is our number 8. Again, if you've got different brushes, this is what, about 3/16, quarter inch.
About a quarter inch.
Somewhere in that range. I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to maybe do a little bit different.
And you're just using pure white.
Yep, just pure white. A little bit more of a curvy kind of shape to start. I got a water drop on there.
So can we paint like Jason and the mat in his mask peeking behind one of these trees since it's Friday the 13th?
Sure. I mean,
What was the camp called that they went to? I can't remember. One of you guys knows. The camp from Friday the 13th. What's it called? I've seen t-shirts you can get that have it.
Normally I know what it is, but it's just one of those moments that's just I'm not on it. All right. Just giving some little streaks of color. As I work my way down from the peak, I tend to go a little closer to horizontal with these streaks.
Oh, that's how you do it. Your mountains always turn out way better than mine.
So I'm not real, like, if I were going to finish this mountain, this landscape the way it is, I would hate the way this mountain cuts across like this. It feels, it's distracting. But when we put the tree in, that's going to put a what they call an eye stopper in. And that
Crystal Lake.
Yes, that's it.
I was gonna say Crystal Lake.
I was gonna say Crystal Lake. Okay, Billy. All right. Now, for our foreground mountain, that's all we're gonna do with those background ones. We're not gonna do any other highlights or backlight, highlights on the backside. We don't want to put that much detail into them. But we're going to move to our foreground mountain. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my biggest paintbrush. Again, just a little bit of white. This one you can be kind of jaggedy with if you want to. Don't have to come down very far. Maybe I'll go a little bit further like this.
Yeah. What was that noise?
I don't know. And it's the same thing. One thing I make to make sure is that
Soft Monkey. LOL, I'm new to the channel, so I didn't know what your name is, and I was like, he sounds like his name would be Paul, and I didn't expect it to actually be that.
No, I sound like a Paul. All right.
I think you better go see. You might be clairvoyant.
Might be time to
you might be clairvoyant.
Go buy a lottery ticket. Split the winnings with me. I'm going to show you guys a little trick you can do. This might be a little bit a little intimidating, and it kind of just depends on if you've got the right kind of brush. But our littlest brush has fairly long bristles on it, and one of the tricks
I missed a step.
No, you did. Oh yeah, just a big brush. You're too busy chatting.
Is it white?
Yeah.
That you were using?
Yeah. So I like to load this brush up with white all along the whole length of the bristles, and you can just kind of take it and drag it. Almost like we're using a palette knife.
I'm surprised you're using the little brush for that. I would not expect.
It's just one way you can do it. But you can see what it does is it doesn't hold as much paint. And I'm just using the side of the brush. I'm not using the tip of the bristles. And it gives us that kind of nice jaggedy breakup thing that Bob Ross used to do with a palette knife.
Yeah, he would use a palette knife and just scrape it down.
A little bead of paint, a little roll of paint. Right
Maybe
there
one
on the
month
edge.
we'll send you guys surprise palette knives.
We should.
We totally should. I was researching them.
And the only reason that we don't typically do this like in the studio is A, you can't see it from where we're sitting. But then the other thing is I try to typically in the studio try to discourage people from being too detail oriented, but this is not really a detailing process. And the other thing is people, when they're not using their own brushes, tend to not take very good care of them. So this can be a little bit tough on your brushes. So just getting a little bit of that chonkiness going on there. And you can do the same thing with a bigger brush if you want. But I think when you start using, if I were to use the big brush again, if you use the tip of the bristles, we end up doing a brush stroke too much. And it doesn't.
People tend to want to over smooth it, but we don't want smooth.
Yeah, so you can use the big brush and use the side of it too. And we used to do that in the studio a lot, where you just kind of take it and just give it a quick little nudge. But I actually, over the years, I've become more fond of that, using the little brush.
I have never seen you do that, so that's surprising to me. I
do it all the time when you're teaching and you're not paying attention to what I'm doing.
Huh. I actually haven't watched you teach a class in a while because, like, at Skamania Lodge when you're teaching, and Greta and I just take off. I'm like, let's go see what they have new in the shop.
Yeah.
If he needs help, he'll text me.
But man, if I'm not there to help you, wow.
That is not true.
Just kidding, just kidding. You actually left the lodge and went into town the other day when you left me there teaching.
It's because we had the dog with us.
All right, so that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. You could come in and maybe soften a little bit if you want to, but I would actually encourage you not to. We will come back on this other side and add shadow. So this mid-tone actually becomes kind of more like our highlight on the right-hand side, but we're going to wait and do that because what we're going to do next is we're going to shift down and I'm going to bring our painting back. We're going to shift down here and do our trees. Wow, we are what, 40 minutes into this painting?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to knock this one out quick. This is almost Bob Ross kind of speed.
Wow.
Almost. So we're going to do these trees that are in the background here. And this painting was kind of interesting because when I was developing it, I knew I wanted to do the mountains, and then I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do in the foreground. And it's so easy to just say, I'm going to do a river or a lake. So that's what we did. But so often we just do a river or a lake. And I think the reason is it's just more appealing to look at. It's like, how many photos do you see of mountains that are just like a lake in the foreground? And it's just, you could do a whole bunch of ridges of trees. That's kind of a cool thing to do. But if you're going to do that, you kind of want the mountains to be smaller and more in the distance. So this just kind of works as a good little way to get around it. Kind of like Trillium Lake. If you guys are outside of Oregon, you want to see really cool views of Mount Hood, do a Google search for Trillium Lake.
Yeah,
and
there's some really great.
It basically is kind of like the way this looks in a lot of ways. Lost Lake is like that as well. But we have a lot of lakes right up in the mountains, right at the base of these mountains. So, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to do these trees in the foreground. And this color is really very similar to what we used up in here, where it's, I need a little bit more black in my mountain when I come back. But it's a little bit of black, and rather than being blue, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my biggest brush, so I'm going to give it a quick little rinse. Rather than being just blue, it's mostly going to be some of our violet. I had some white on my brush, it's just going to brush off there. And a little bit of black. So mostly just violet and black. I think that's all that's in there. There we go. Let's add a little bit more violet. There we go. And this will just come across as being a gray.
Black and violet, huh?
Black and violet. It's turning violet, violet.
You know, I used that color in my last painting too, the black and violet.
Oh.
It was a good combo.
Honestly, anytime you can
make a gray without white.
Make a gray without white, do it. It's gonna
nice
always
to have a tint.
The one color you don't want to use is yellow.
Let me see if I mean there we
go. Yeah, yellow and black are always gonna make a really like acidic green.
It depends on the yellow.
Yeah, it's never pretty though. All right, so what we're going to do for this is what we call like heart rate monitor trees. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can either just take your brush and just scribble.
You should show the original to show what we're doing.
I already did.
Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I like to get a little taller on the outside edges. And basically I'm just taking the brush, holding it on edge.
Does this go all the way across?
Yep. Starting a little taller. And what I like to do is just kind of work across a couple inches. There's two ways to do this. You can either put the brush on the canvas and just wiggle it up and down. I've seen some people turn the canvas and do it side to side, either way. And I'll do a couple inches, and then I'll just take my brush, wipe it off, and just take the color that's on the canvas and just kind of start pulling it down. And if you're struggling with this, getting the trees getting a little too kind of blotchy and fat, like they don't feel like fine, like fir trees. They're feeling a little bit more bulky. You can always do this with a smaller brush. In fact, I think I used a smaller brush when I did the original. But the other thing I like to do, the other way I like to do this, and this is actually how I've been doing this more lately, Jenny, is more of a dabbing. So I kind of start with the tops of the trees and I dab, 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 dab.
Does that give you more roughness?
It gives a little bit more roughness. It also gives a little bit more fineness. But the main thing that you want to be careful of when you do this is that everything is coming together. So you're not leaving gaps in between trees. Everything is a tree. Like every little spot in between trees is just shorter trees. We're not leaving gaps. That's how we prevent it from looking like a fence or a row of telephone poles.
Or a stand of grass.
Or a stand of grass.
It's been mowed to the perfect length.
Like the HOA's in charge.
So what are you doing with the bottom of these? Like, what's your
so I'm
eternal plan here with this painting? Is this going to be a shadow into the lake? Or?
Doesn't matter at this point.
Okay, so we're just kind of letting it blend out.
Just blending it out, yep. The reason we do this is like when you look across a lake or something like that, you're seeing, and you're looking out into a forest across the way. Mm-hmm. You're not seeing. You're seeing into the shadows of the forest. So what you're just seeing is just darkness at the base of the trees. Mm-hmm. So we are going to come back and add a little bit of detail to some of these. A lot of times we just rely on the foreground trees to set the stage for the background trees and vice versa. This time we're going to kind of let them both have a chance to shine. So by doing this little fade out, we don't know, are these trees, how tall are these trees? Are they coming all the way down into here? Or is it going further? We don't know yet. We'll establish that later. The other thing is you want to I just added a little touch of blue to this. I think the blue helps. Yeah, a little bit of blue helps there too. So you can always come back and kind of brush over. It felt like it was kind of getting a little too washed out feeling. So I just added a little bit of blue to my mix. And I try to look for repeating patterns and get rid of them if I can. So take your time on this. If you need to pause the video to catch up to do this part, go for it. You can, like, as I'm coming back with a little bit of darker color. It's okay if you don't get them all because maybe those are just trees that are a little further back. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, it'd be good to have the different tones going on in there.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. In fact, I might even go a little bit higher on this side, kind of balance those big trees when we put them in. We'll work on the water later. This is not really important right now. So this is kind of the boring, mundane part of the instructional process because it's a little bit of tedious work that just relies on pushing through, being patient. I think that one of the things you have to really make sure is that you're not placing trees. What I mean by placing trees is going, okay, there's a tree, there's a tree, there's a tree. It tends to really create patterns and other elements that are not necessarily as comfortable feeling as they should be. looks a little too thought out. Trees just grow where they grow. And you can see there's not any gaps where you can see through. You can't see any horizontal line. That's another thing I see a lot in the studios, or in the studio when we teach, and you've probably seen it too, is when we do a row of trees and there's a distinctive horizontal line that people leave where they kind of work up or work down from. Mm-hmm. And we want to try to avoid that. It should just be this big, overgrown mess.
Sounds like our backyard.
Touche. Actually, our backyard's not that overgrown right now. Just that one little pocket of bamboo I haven't addressed yet.
Well, you have addressed it, but it grew right back.
And it grew right back. It's because I didn't.
Amazing how fast it grows. Right back.
Tried to prep it to dig it out, and then ran out of time to dig it out before it grew back. So I'm going ahead. Wow. I am proceeding with painting trees on this side, even though most of these are going to be hidden. But I always kind of like to think maybe they will, maybe they won't. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend like they're not going to be, and that way I'm covered in case they are not or are. Then we're good to go. I'm really big on this, making sure that like every step should almost feel like you don't need to do anything else.
Well, I'm not quite there yet.
I said almost. It almost feels like we could just leave it like that and call it good.
Definitely not on mine, but maybe on yours.
Well, if you're pretty close, if you just blend it out that bottom edge a little bit more. Fluff it out. Who knew trees could be so fluffy? All right. So the other thing I'm going to do is, well, I've got this color mixed up. And one thing I like to do is I like to come through and I like to take a couple of these, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. But I don't want you to get carried away and do all of them. I would actually say just no more than like 3 to actually give them some branches. So I'm going to take my smallest brush here and a little bit of that same color we just used. And I'm going to identify, like, this is a taller tree here. So it's probably a little closer. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of detail. And all I do is I just take my brush and just kind of loosely brush some horizontal choppy. Oh, it's almost exactly like what we just did as far as the vertical choppiness, but we're doing it horizontally. It's almost like a little heart rate monitor. Starting pretty tight at the top, getting a little wider as we work our way down. Nothing too crazy. And just kind of keeping it within that fairly close to horizontal but choppy, exactly the way we just painted the trees, but just smaller scale and side to side. Then we've got some background trees and we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and do this one here too. All right, what did Daniel say? I see you laughing.
Oh, I was laughing at Sock Monkey.
Oh, Sock Monkey.
Fluffy trees.
Fluffy little trees.
Fluffy little trees. It is funny to think of, like, I think I was thinking earlier when you said it, I was like, I think he's probably the only artist I've ever heard describe a painting step as fluffing it out.
Well, you guys understand what it means, right?
Yep. There's a few other terms that you use that kind of fall into that, like whisking. I think when you talk about whisking, I think about baking.
I mean, I'm thinking whisk, whisk, whisk.
Whisk away at those trees.
Yeah, so there's 2. You can always do one of one of these other smaller ones. One thing I try to avoid is like doing like them evenly spaced. So maybe do one that's a little bit more snugged up to the other one. Let's do this one here.
Are you using your little detail brush?
Yep. Again, just horizontal, just like we just did to make the trees, just two sides, side to side instead of up and down.
We'll bake some happy little trees.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about doing some baking how-tos on here, because that's my other passion.
Yeah, Jenny was
I do a ton of baking.
Professional cake decorator before we started doing mine.
I worked in a gourmet cupcake shop when that was all the rage back in like 2010. And cupcake shops were opening everywhere. It was a huge fad, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I continued baking, and I have a 15-year-old who eggs me on. Mom, I really am craving gooey brownies.
Ooh, gooey brownies.
Yeah, you with your 15-year-old metabolism. Of course you are. Yeah. Fluffy trees are like happy trees, for sure.
All right. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and put in our hint of water. I'm going to use my biggest brush. I'm going to give it a quick little rinse. And I basically want to take a little tiny bit of blue, little tiny bit of purple, and some white. Probably a little darker than you think you want it to be.
Your way of saying happy trees with your own little twist is fluffy trees. That's what Stock Monkey says.
There we go.
Yep, I agree.
So if you're going to mix it up,
Trademarked.
it's kind of like almost like an acid wash denim kind of color.
Oh, sweet. We're heading back to...
Yeah, I could do a little bit more white. There we go. Just going to add a little bit
I'm
more.
having issues because this isn't dry yet, so every little paint stroke I put on here is annoyingly lifting the paint underneath it. I'm tempted to go use that hairdryer right over there, but it will be loud, so I'm just going to wave it around.
So now we're taking this lighter color and we're whisking it
We're whisking.
over the top.
Whiskey business right here.
And I let this brush kind of...
What did you mix to make that color?
So a little bit of purple, a little bit of blue, and some white.
Okay.
And I'm letting this go up over my fade out just a bit. And the reason I say whisk is I want it to be streaky. I don't want it to cover completely what we've done.
Daniel says to make sure that your lake doesn't have the algae bloom that we're experiencing right now in Oregon.
Yeah, Hag Lake. Do not take your dogs to Hag Lake.
Actually, they have Hag Lake closed right now because of the fire that they're trying to put out.
Oh. So somebody was saying, don't let your dogs drink from the lake. And I was like, yeah, just don't let them in the water at all.
Yeah,
So,
they'll drink it. It's not like they're going
yeah.
to be like, I mean, dogs are kind of that way.
So the other thing I'm going to do before we get too sidetracked is I'm going to take a little bit more white on my brush. I'm going to look in line with my mountain here. And I'm just going to give it a quick little hint that maybe there's a little bit of this reflection of the mountain showing.
Dude, this is totally Crystal Lake right here.
Except for there's no mountain in Crystal Lake.
Well, in the painting world, we can make there be.
That's kind of like saying we could put a bayou at the base of Mount Hood. But it wouldn't be Mount Hood then, but...
There's an algae bloom right now.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not a huge fan. This is where I depart from Mr. Ross. And I'm not a big fan of doing the shoreline at the background. Because it's like, I don't know, I think it's a little bit predictable. And I don't know that it really... I actually think it distracts from the painting a lot of times.
Thanks for ripping on my step I did last week.
Well, I didn't. Well, that was more up close. See, up close is one thing, but when you're back way across the way, you're
nice
not.
save, Paul.
No, it's true. All right, that's all we're gonna do for the water. For now, we're gonna come back and we're gonna do some reflection of these trees into the water a bit. We're gonna add our bigger trees. In fact, we're actually gonna do our bigger trees now. And I'm gonna show you the way I do trees.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then. So what we're gonna mix together for this is I'm gonna start with like my number. Start with our number 4. You could start with your smallest brush, that works too. I'm gonna take black, just a bit, about equal parts black and blue. Just a little bit more blue, and you can add a little tiny bit of purple too, violet. And basically what I'm going for is this really deep navy blue. We might need to add a little bit more black to it because my background trees are pretty dark, and I want to make sure that this tree ends up being a little bit darker. So I'm just going to maybe I'll take my brush and I'll just put a little dot on there to test it. And sure enough, it's darker, so that'll work. And what I do for a tree is a lot of times you'll see people who paint fir trees, and when you go into other sip and paint places, they will always start with the trunk and say, I'm going to paint the trunk here. And then they do the branches, and then what ends up happening is they paint the trunk like this. Here's our little slope here. And people know, hey, branches come off of the trunk. And everything just feels like a ladder. And so I like to just take the trunk out of the equation and say, okay, we're going to just focus on painting the foliage. It gives us a more natural look. And I'm going to start maybe a little smidge higher than this peak here, and in from the edge of the canvas about inch and a half or so. So right about here. And I start with a little horizontal or vertical. I said horizontal, I meant vertical. Tip of my tree. Then the first couple of branches kind of are maybe up a little bit. And this is where I here, I'll zoom in Jenny style.
Wow, it looks like a bird
Looks
bombing.
Looks like an alien claw. And then I'm just going to use the brush and just work my way side to side. Now, one of the things I like to tell people before you get going too far.
This is just black and blue, right?
Black and blue, I put a little tiny bit of purple just to warm it up. The angle you want to go at, if you think of a clock, and here's the top of the 12 o'clock. This is the top of your tree. Here's 6 o'clock right here. These trees are a little bit narrower because we're higher up in the mountains. We're going to shoot for about 4:30, 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, maybe 5:30 and 6:30. I call them 5 to 7 trees. So it's basically this kind of angle there. If you start going too wide too early, all of a sudden you gotta figure out how you're gonna fix it so it's not covering your whole landscape. So start narrower. You can always make them wider. You can't put them on slim fast and bring them back to being able to fit on the canvas after you've gone too wide. So, going to keep mixing. I'm going to switch now to my biggest brush. And one of the things people forget about a big brush is you don't have to use the whole width of the brush. You can just start off with a corner. And as I work my way down, I'm almost getting too wide. I'm going to keep it under control here. Pretend like that one was just a rogue branch that's growing out. That happens sometimes. And you'll see as I come down here, we're not gonna really try to preserve what's behind, because the tree is the closest thing. It's going to be the most obvious thing that would have something looking weird about it. But it's a great way of, now I've got this weird slope that I didn't like before. This is going to get completely hidden. All I'm really concerned about is being able to see these peaks. I'm basically going to bring this all the way down to about here. And once I get about there, I'm going to do the same thing we did before. I'm just going to fluff these out.
Fluff it out to the bottom of the canvas?
Yep. Now these ones are going to be, the shadow of this little landmass is going to basically come off the canvas, so we'll put some ripples in there later. There's one. Now I'm going to do one more, and if you did that one and you're like, I need to call my therapist on Monday, that was too stressful for me, you just leave it at that. Just don't do any more. You know, this is not supposed to be something that causes you stress. It's supposed to be something that relieves you of stress. So just leave it like that. I'm going to do one more though, and this one's going to be a little bit easier because it's really going to just kind of, it's smaller. It's just going to disappear into this other one. And I'm going to go back up a little bit, because one of the things I really like to do with the foreground tree is I like to make sure that it's overlapping all of the other background elements. So I wanted to make sure it's going across these trees, it's going across this mountain, it's going across this mountain. Obviously it's this mountain's in front of this one, so it all layers, but then I also like it to be just a little bit taller than the mountain so that we know it's closer to us. These smaller trees in the background give us a little bit more sense of scale so that the mountain feels big. That's a lot of detail information there. But that's what we're doing. The more you do it, the more you learn. All right, a little bit of the same color. I'm going to actually do this whole tree with just my number 8 and move off to the side a little bit. This is going to go just up into that second mountain a bit. Same process as the top of the other tree. It's exactly the same. We're just not going to get quite as big with it. I'm actually going to stick using this number 8, because I think even on the original painting I used the number 8 for the big tree too, which is kind of, Jenny would probably be like, huh? She's used to the way I usually do things, and I'm always experimenting, trying to find new ways to do them and explain them to people. It's always a learning process, even for those of us who have been painting for a while. See, I got a little bit too much blue in that. It's not that big of a deal because it's a little further back. But if you do want to darken it up, just do it. Again, this is just going to come down into this little landmass. Fluff it out.
Fluffy.
You can add a hint of a reflection if you want to. We're getting awfully close to being done. Awfully close. There's my arm. Reach across with my left hand. All right, so we've only got a couple things left to do. And the cool thing is they can kind of happen almost simultaneously. We're going to do the reflection of our background trees into the water. And this is, I think, something that's really oftentimes overlooked in paintings. Like, I feel like, you know, like the sip and paint paintings are...
You are really bashing the sip and
Well,
paint
I am,
paintings.
because we're part of the industry, so I can make fun of ourselves. But we have a tendency of not giving those reflections enough intention.
Well, you
enough
also
attention.
are teaching people who are drinking wine and only have 2
You don't
hours.
have to make excuses for it.
Yes, I can.
No, you don't have to. We understand the circumstances. All right. So I'm going to take this color that we just used for our foreground trees. I'm going to add a little bit of white and maybe a little bit more blue. I want to make sure that this color is a little bit lighter than the trees we painted in the background. And it is. So basically what I'm going to do is paint down into my water a bit. I'm not going to worry too much about trying to mimic it exactly. You can maybe some of these bigger ones, you can mimic them a bit. But it doesn't have to be exact because you're seeing a reflection. You're not seeing the exact same angle of the trees, so you're going to see them differently. Over in this area where these trees are a little bit darker, you might want to add a little bit more black.
Thank you, Linda. She's looking really good.
Well, thank you very
Daniel
much.
says, I like how the clouds look like it's either snowing in the background or raining. It's true. Mine especially looks like that, actually. We'll see it in the end. But I kind of purposely did this sort of rain coming in thing on one side.
So I'm going to add a little bit more black. Because over here where we've kind of got the darker water, I want to make sure that these reflections are showing up a little bit. So I'm going to add just a touch more black to it. And I'm not going to worry about reflecting the branches. We'll come back and we're going to put some surface on the water, and that's kind of what pulls all this together. I'm actually going to take this same color that we just used and going to, are you paying attention?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to take a little bit of this kind of darker gray color and go right along this mountainside here, slope. Just very softly add in a little bit of some extra darkness on this side of the mountain here. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just makes that pop just a smidge more. You know, when else do I use the word smidge?
I don't know.
I use it a lot when I'm painting though. You don't want that to be black. Just wanted to add a little bit of extra darkness on that side, just a touch. If you get carried away, you can always lighten it up.
Keep having weird issues with the paint down here.
You're overworking it then.
Probably. It's like the paint has, I don't know. It's either too transparent or too opaque.
Yeah, well, we've kind of got both our blue and our violet are both fairly gelatinous based. You know, as far as like they have a very gel-like quality. And when I say gel-like quality, what I mean is they're not super opaque or chalky. Mm-hmm. But they're also not like super translucent like some of the other colors are either. They just kind of want to push around.
Push around. Push around.
Alrighty then. So that's just, you know, you don't have to do that side. It just feels like it needed a little bit over there just to give it a little bit more intensity.
Oh, it's intense.
The paint dries pretty fast in weather conditions like this. Typically, acrylic paints, I usually say about 10 to 15 minutes to be fully dry. And this, it's like 4 to 5 minutes sometimes when it's hot and dry. If you're painting in some place where there's air conditioning going, air conditioning tends to, remove humidity? Yeah. And so then it can really dry fast there too. So fast enough that it's hard to do a good blend like you'd see Mr. Ross do. So would be a good time, like if you wanted to add some more vibrant highlights to your mountain, you could do that now. I'll show you how to do that real quick. I'm just going to use my smallest brush and a little bit of white. You don't have to if you don't feel like it needs it, but I think sometimes it's kind of nice to kind of come back and just add some brighter white, just kind of sitting on top some of these areas. I'm not doing it in new areas, I'm just building the white in areas where there already is white. You don't have to do this. Mostly right now as I'm giving that water a little chance to dry. Do a little bit on these other back mountains too if you want to. Just make sure that when you do this that you're not just making the whole thing whiter. You're just adding little enhancements. And a lot of times I see so often people just paint the mountain white.
Daniel, the paint dries usually within about 10 minutes. Most colors anyway. And Wednesday, yes, abstract is a style that I really love to do, so I can definitely... I've worked on a couple that I just didn't like quite enough to put in the box.
Mm-hmm. I think the orange one you did was, well, not fully abstract. I think it was more abstract in composition.
Which orange one is that?
The oranges.
Oh, sort of.
Yeah, it wasn't really abstract, but it was more abstract in composition than...
I think it's hard because with abstract paintings, I like to work real large. Like, I have a lot of abstract paintings I've done at home, and they're all like 4 feet tall. So I just need to practice putting it on a smaller canvas.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do really quick. We're going to do the birds. So birds, a lot of times I see people in the studio and they just do black. And that doesn't look very good to me.
Unless you're painting bats.
We're not painting bats. We're painting birds. And even bats at a distance, they're not going to be pure black because the color gets desaturated. So I'm going to take blue. I'm using my littlest brush and a little bit of purple. And I think I'm just going to, let's add just a tiny dot of black. Maybe even a tiny dot of white. The reason I don't like to use just pure black is a lot of times what happens is it then feels like it should be much closer and then it feels like you need to add detail. So I've just kind of mixed up this dark color. It's actually not too dissimilar to what we used in this area here. And as far as the bird shape, it's just what we call a V bird.
Like an open M, a rounded M kind of.
Yeah, if I do it very large. It's like that kind of shape. But we're going to do it really tiny, like maybe a 1/4 inch across. And so you're just going to use just the tip of the bristles of the brush. I like to do 2. I always think of like, parent hawks or osprey or something like that. They are pairs, not flocks. Do 1, move a little bit away.
Did you know it's a belief that if you get pooped on by a bird, it's good luck?
Well, I got pooped on by an osprey while in a fishing boat.
I thought you were the one that it missed.
No, it hit me in the face.
That must be some really good luck.
That was the most atrocious smell I've ever had.
Dead fish.
Had on my face in my entire life. It was terrible. If you wanted to do one more baby bird or something like that, why not? Let's do one over here. It's up to you.
What color do you use on your palette? I might just dip right into it. Here we go.
Part of the reason I like using this little bit lighter color too is I feel like they become part of the sky instead of, here, I'll lift this up so you guys can see it closer. They feel like they're more part of the sky than like stuck on. And when they're black, they just kind of feel out of place.
Wednesday said, I did get pooped on by a bird and received quite a bit of money. That's awesome.
Oh, I didn't get paid when I got pooped on by the osprey. All right. So last thing we got to do on this painting is we're just going to add some surface to our water and some ripples. And I like to just take my dirty paint water and my smallest brush. I'm going to put a little dab of water on my palette, get a little bit of white. I'm going to mix up kind of like heavy cream. And I want to have very little to no paint on my brush. And I'm basically going to move my brush side to side, very barely touching the brush to the canvas. Having very little paint on the brush is really important on this. If you have a lot of paint on there, it's going to get a big old glob, and you're going to lose this kind of watery feel. So again, I've kind of mixed it so that's the consistency of like heavy cream. And the water is dirty, so it keeps it from being too bright white. You don't really need to do any in the middle and lighter areas, but you can. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, Wednesday, we want to know where this money pooping bird is.
Yeah, I want to go find that.
Find it. It's like the golden egg laying goose.
All right, so that's all I'm going to do on this. You can see I just put some little wispy, there we go, some little wispy streaks in there. You could do a little bit. What now?
It's top secret.
Oh, okay. You could, in these areas that are closer, you could use a little bit denser white. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do with that. So one thing I like to do when we're doing a little painting like this one, where we've got this little wispiness and white in the water, is when I do my signature, I like to use that same color and just kind of sneak it in over here, and almost make it feel like it's one of the little. Gotta finish my sentence, don't I?
We can't read your brain yet.
Ripples.
Actually, maybe Sock Monkey can.
There you go. Go buy that lotto ticket.
And find that money bird.
So while Jenny finishes up hers, I'm going to show you guys what we've got coming up next month. We're actually trying to be ahead of schedule and actually have paintings done a month in advance or more.
Yeah, I could show my Halloween painting.
Yeah, well, you said you weren't sure on that one yet, so
okay, maybe I'll wait.
Shouldn't. So this is Jenny's painting for next month. We're going to do a 12 by 12 canvas, and I don't remember, did we have a name for this one?
No, I don't think I came up with a name yet.
We haven't named them yet. So one of the things that we always do is we kind of take turns choosing the color palette, and then we both work from the same palette, and that way we are not sending out too many different colors and wasting extra paint and things like that. So there's Jenny's, and Jenny, you've got mine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we're using 12 by 12 canvas.
12 by 12 next
We like
month.
working with square canvas once in a while because it can really change the design quite a bit.
There's mine. I think we might call this one like Summer's Last Goodbye. I don't know. Something. Last Kiss of Summer. I don't know. This is actually the way it's felt for the last several days. Just hot and crazy hot. But anyway, so this is mine. So we'll be doing this one the second week of September. This one we'll be doing the first week of September. And then we'll probably have October's paintings posted here pretty shortly.
Yeah.
I'm going to move my paint out of the way so we've got room for your painting. Alrighty then. I heard that. Alright, let's see Jenny's painting. Let's bring it in. Definitely looks like Jenny's painting.
Do you see who's hiding?
Oh, yes. Jason is there. Let's zoom in there.
His body is still wet. But yes, that's Jason. He's at Camp Crystal Lake with added mountains.
Yeah. So yeah.
I tried to go different with my mountains. I wanted them to be real tall and narrow because I tend to fall into doing the Cascade Mountains always.
Mm-hmm.
So I made them more like when that first one was kind of like the Matterhorn. It was like, oh, let's sort of follow that path.
You used a lot more purple in your sky. That's good. I like it actually. It almost feels like this is our blue sky and this is a more closer cloud or something.
Just need to make some teenagers out in the middle of the lake in a boat.
There you go. I see you put some more defined clouds.
And this is the area that I thought I was kind of brushing down to make it look.
So
like
can we back up a little bit
in.
and see, like you earlier who were saying, I'm trying to avoid adding detail. Well, you add detail.
Where did I add detail? Oh, the clouds.
Yeah. Trying to get away from that.
Be quiet, Paul. You don't need to bring that up.
Yes. Anyway, so thanks.
I should have put the machete with blood dripping.
You should have.
There's still time.
There's still time. So let's
Thank you, Linda.
bring it back. Camera operator.
Oh, that's right. This one? No, this one.
There it is. We're
Here
back.
we are. We're back.
So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. That was a lot of fun.
Friday the 13th
Friday
fun.
the 13th fun, and I think we did some nice paintings.
We did.
And
This will go on a post on. I always am looking for content to post on our Instagram pages, and now I've got it.
And for those of you who are regulars, I think I'll go ahead and lay it out here. We're going to be switching our website around in the next couple of weeks. So when you go to our website, there's going to be more tools available for you to manage your account. A little more customer friendly. And we should have that up and running in the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Cool.
So if it looks different when you go in, that's why. You know how to get a hold of us. Reach out to us. So those of you who are new and haven't seen us before, if you communicate with us at all via the website or email or any of that stuff, it's me or Jenny.
Yep, it's just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
I do all the shipping most of the time. Well, yeah, actually I do. Me and a couple employees will do the shipping, but we definitely answer all the messages that come in via email and on our website.
Yep,
So.
I still have to have another job. So like yesterday, I was out working outside in 107 degree temperature all day. And so...
Well, maybe one day you'll be able to just paint.
I always said my goal in life was to be Bob Ross, and I'm pretty close. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining us. If you're new to the channel, make sure you click subscribe. Smash that button, or whatever it says. What?
Yes, Wednesday you can purchase past subscription boxes. If you're just go to gobox.com, right?
If you are subscribed through Amazon, we do not have the past ones available on Amazon. You'll have to go to gobox.com.
GOGHbox.com. And you just click on, is it individual kits? Is that what we call
Yeah,
them?
individual projects, but we're going to be adding the past boxes as a whole.
And if you don't see one that you want in there, just message us and we'll put it on.
Yeah.
Like if you want a combination of a certain group of paintings we can for sure.
Yeah, so like that's one of the things that the new website's going to have. So like this will be the 2 that we just did this month will be available as August 2021, so on and so forth. So we'll have the full boxes available. It's a little bit cheaper to get the whole box than it is to get the 2 individual projects. So anyway, that's it.
Stay safe out there Friday the 13th. Avoid Camp Crystal Lake, and we will see you next time.
Lesson of that story is don't pick on other kids.
Don't pick on other kids. That's right. That's right. We're going to go home and watch that movie with our 15-year-old because she's never seen it, and it'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. Cheers, everybody.
See you later. Bye.